Hello, and welcome to the 19th Annual Green Living Festival, virtual surprise, like almost everything else is these days, from the Earthway Center at Missouri Botanical Garden. I'm Jean Ponzi, Green Resources Manager for the garden on the Earthways team, and it is my happy responsibility to get to have a conversation with each one of our 25 exhibitors for this festival. Normally, you'd get to have a conversation with them as you walk around our beautiful Kemper Center for Home Gardening, but thanks to electrons, we're able to do this at your leisure without having to drive. Carbon footprint remains small. Green Living Festival, brought to you by Ameren, Missouri, our presenting sponsor. Thank you so much, Ameren, for energizing these efforts to share sustainable solutions that we hope you can use in your everyday life, in your home, and the places where you work, play, worship, and socialize at the safe and healthy distance with those you know and love. mobot.org/greenlivingfest is where you'll find all the details. This exhibitor interview spotlights the program Known and Grown STL. It is a regional brand for what makes local food. What does that mean and how do we get it? And it is an effort that comes to us from the Missouri Coalition for the Environment. Jenn DeRose, you are the program manager for Known and Grown STL. It's always great to talk to you.
Always a pleasure, Jean.
And so where did you come up with the purple for this brand?
That's just my color, man. So we were very lucky to have Civic Creatives work on this brand for us when we were still developing it. And she provided us a bunch of different options, and purple is what we landed on.
It's very catchy. It's very good. And this is a program of the Missouri Coalition for the Environment, which for almost 50 years last year was the anniversary, the big anniversary. People have associated probably mostly with clean air and clean water and open space, and now food. How did that come into the mix?
Well, I mean, food touches all of those items that you just ticked off, right? I mean, food impacts the way that we farm impacts our land, it impacts our air quality, and it impacts our water quality. So it was a sort of natural progression, but our food and farm team has been around for around 3 years now, a little longer maybe, and we're up to 5 full-time employees. So it's pretty impressive.
And you are green giants, all of you. You're doing a great job in this effort. Jen, you have some slides to show us a little bit about Known and Grown. Let's just take a moment and you can show them to us. So there it is, the logo, Known and Grown STL. And what is that little symbol down in the corner there, STLFPC?
That's the St. Louis Food Policy Coalition. So that's a group of over a dozen different organizations in and around the St. Louis area that work on food access and food just in general, food resources. So they determined that there was a need for a regional brand to support and promote local and environmentally responsible farmers. So Known and Grown is a result of their idea.
And what are some other examples, a couple other examples of food policy that are in the works or that have arisen out of this coalition?
Sure, there's a lot of different work going on with urban agriculture, with legislation around agriculture and in around St. Louis and across Missouri. There's also the Food Equity Advisory Board run by the great Tasha Phoenix. Perhaps I'm sure you've talked to her before. So there's a lot of kettles, a lot of sticks in the fire when it comes to food and policy in St. Louis.
And there in the other lower corner there is the Missouri Coalition for the Environment logo. And I really encourage you to visit their website. It is moenvironment.org, where you can learn about the many kinds of programs that are taking place from this now over 50-year-old advocate working in the Show Me State. Jen, I think your next slide has some information about how Known and Grown works. Let's see that.
Sure. So what we do at Known and Grown is we visit each farm, and we promote environmentally responsible farmers within 150 miles of St. Louis. So we have a farmer specialist who's my partner in crime, Chris Wimmer. He visits each one of the farms, makes sure that they're doing all the things that they say they're doing, that they meet our standards and practices for participating in our program. So that's one thing. Sorry,
for example, what are some environmentally responsible practices that you're looking for?
So the big ones are making sure that they're not using any synthetic chemicals on any of their pasture or crops. They're not confining their animals, and they're not feeding their animals harmful additives. So those are the big ones. But beyond that, we have lots of different recommended practices, such as no-till. because tilling the soil helps or it releases carbon into the atmosphere, and we don't want that. We want to build soil health and sequester that carbon in the ground. So that's the kind of thing we look for. We also look at water, water conservation, pollinator, increasing pollinator habitats and things like that. So I encourage you to visit our good stewardship practices on our website to see the full list.
Mm-hmm. And then this is a marketing program. This is a brand. This is evaluating, and it's also promoting and helping to grow the business acumen of farmers. Yeah.
Yes, it is. So a big part of what we do. My other partner, Ray Miller, the local food coordinator for the Missouri Coalition for the Environment, works really hard to pair farmers and their products with buyers. So we talk a lot with a lot of the local food distributors and buyers in and around St. Louis, from restaurants to retailers, to CSAs and things like that. So we try to help bridge that gap and make it easier for farmers to sell their products in and around the area.
Ray Miller from the Food Access Program, the Food and Farm Program at the Coalition for the Environment, will be one of our panelists on Saturday, June 6th, Green Living Day for the Green Living Festival. We'll have a food waste issues and action panel that I'm looking forward to moderating with several different activists, including Ray. And then, how do you talk about this to the public? What are some of the main messages that Known and Grown puts out?
That is such a good question. So I think it's really important to navigate greenwashing and labeling when you're considering food. Greenwashing, for those that don't know, it's when a company puts a veneer of environmental responsibility on a product that may or may not be environmentally responsible. So some examples of this are cage-free eggs, right? So cage-free eggs are, unfortunately, chickens don't really have access to outdoors. They're packed in warehouses, but customers think they're buying environmentally responsible eggs or eggs that are chickens that are humanely raised, right? And that's not the case. So one of the things that we do is communicate about that. We also communicate about why it's important to support a local food system to build food resiliency for our area. So that's a huge thing that we really focus on, among other things, such as we talk a lot about justice and equity in food and farming on our social media platforms, and ways that consumers can get involved to help build a resilient food system.
And you're helping build the knowledge base and the skill sets of the farmers in this network, yeah?
Yeah, we do. We talk to all of the farmers, and we have them talk to each other, and they share ideas. Chris is, my partner Chris has 25 years of certified naturally grown farming under his belt, so he's got a lot of experience and expertise. So we just share knowledge. That's all we're doing here.
That's a lot of dirt under the belt. Chris Wimmer might want to wash those pants. No, just kidding. Your next slide, I think, uses the word disruptor. I love it when that is used by somebody whose work I respect.
Yes. So I love this. Ray actually encouraged me to use this, and I really like it. And I think it shows that this is an action item. This is an action item that we can all participate in. So these are some different things that you as an individual can do to help build a more resilient food system. And that's more resilient in terms of protecting our air, water, and soil, also more resilient in case of shocks and stressors like climate change or other disruptions to our food system, the COVID-19 disruption, for example. Mm-hmm. So these are all things that can help all of us become stronger. The most important thing, and the thing that you can really do with Known and Grown, is to know your farmer. On our website, we have a farmer profile for every single one of our 40+ farmers, where you can learn all about them and their practices, why they get into farming, if you can visit their farm, and where to buy their products. So it's very in-depth. And so you don't have to go to each farmer's market and ask a bunch of questions while you're waiting in line. So it's a really great way to get to know where your food is coming from. Yeah.
And then the third bullet there, ask restaurants and stores to carry Known and Grown STL products. How are the farms that produce these products labeled? Do you have to go to a website to do that, or does everybody get a sticker, or what?
Well, that's a good question. We actually recently, I don't know if you can see this, we recently got stickers, woo! But we haven't really gotten those out to all the farmers just quite yet. One way that you can find out if a restaurant or farm is using, or a restaurant or store is selling Known and Grown products, is to visit our website, and we have a full list of restaurants and stores that are supporting Known and Grown farmers there. We also have a spreadsheet, a public access spreadsheet for during the coronavirus crisis, where people can find local and sustainable food near them from Known and Grown farmers through curbside or delivery methods.
And then the opportunity there to join a CSA. What is a CSA, and how do you do that?
That's a great question. So a CSA is Community Supported Agriculture. And the idea is that as a member, you purchase a share of the products that the farmer generates over the span of the growing season. And you get weekly boxes of food. It's great. I really love being a member of my CSA. It's a real treat. You got to learn how to cook, but if you can get past that hurdle, you're going to be okay. So this year, thanks to coronavirus again, most of the CSAs of our farmers have sold out. We only have a couple that are left. This hasn't happened in decades. It's sort of amazing. I think people are really interested in and care about supporting local food in this moment in a way that they haven't before. That said, there are still CSAs available, and those are all listed on our website.
And then the last item there, start a garden. There's a little DIY here. It's encouraging everybody to be involved, not just to be a customer, but to be a participant.
That's right. Yeah, that's something that even if you don't have land, you can start a container garden. Growing even a little bit of your own food can help you understand the challenges farmers face and why they're so important to our society, right? But also it can help you save some money and sequester a little carbon right in your own backyard. So I have a couple gardens myself. I'm not a great farmer or gardener, not very good at it, but I get some basil and tomatoes every year, and that's good enough for me.
Those are my priorities too. And in order to have tomato plants in my yard, Jen, because we have so many trees, we kind of have a little forest in my property. We had to build a rock ledge right up next to the south wall of the house, which is the only place on the place that has enough sun to grow tomatoes. And there are 5 big tomato plants that all came from locally produced seeds in big pots there.
Wow, awesome. I mean, that's some devotion.
It's thrilling.
Maybe if you're not as great as Jean Ponzi, you can just get a container and just start with one.
Yeah, well, in the past, it's been like a basil plant. So this is a big step up, and I might try my hand at some bush beans and some squash before I'm done too. Great. It's fun. It's so fun.
It is. And it is relaxing. And relaxing and rewarding. Sorry.
Yeah. So your newsletter, the Known and Grown newsletter, how often does that come out?
So we actually have 2 newsletters. We have one that goes out just to our farmers, and that used to only go out once a month, but since the crisis happened, it's gone out like sometimes those poor guys 3 times a week. But the newsletter for followers goes out round about once a month, and it'll have it'll celebrate the new farmers that are coming into the program, tips on where to buy local food news, local food news, and just like updates on the program. Like for example, we just got 2 new interns, so you'll get to meet them and see what they're up to. As well as links to our blog. So that's the kind of thing you can expect from our newsletter.
And I know the Known and Grown team and the whole food and farm team at the Coalition, you are all really social media masters. You use that media so well. What are a couple of items that have just been hot in the social media wires?
Oh, wow. Well, I think the most recent one is Harrow's Urban Farming and Garden just released that they are starting a new CSA. And that just went crazy. People really liked hearing that. And I think that's because all of the other CSAs were all filled up. So I think people were very excited about that. The other thing that's really blown up on social media is we created a public resource, as I'd mentioned before, for people to buy local food. And that's gotten thousands of shares. So that's been really exciting to see. Our followers have grown exponentially over the last 2 months, and that's been really cool.
Excellent, Jenn DeRose. And I think your last slide shows us some of the farmers that you're working with. I love to get to see them.
Yes, aren't they cute? So yeah, so I've got all kinds of different farmers here on this image, including urban farmers we have in the program, livestock farmers, nonprofit farmers, and for-profit farmers. Those are the 4 main categories of farmers in our program. In order to join, I didn't mention this before, but you must sell your food. You must have an outlet where people can buy your food. So if you're a nonprofit farm, that's awesome that you can still join as long as you're selling somewhere. These people are all wonderful. They're fun to work with. They're charming. Each one of their social media accounts is really fun to watch and charming. If you like cute animal videos or like looking at green, beautiful plants, highly recommend following all of our farmers on social media. It is a real joy, especially in these times. So highly recommend doing that.
And you said that the participation in community supported agriculture, where you literally support the farmer at the beginning of the growing season, and that lets them work throughout the season, and then you're their customer on an ongoing basis. How are farmers doing? How are they holding up in all of this upheaval?
So far, so good. It's been very encouraging. Our farmers have been selling out of product As I said, their CSAs have all filled up. People seem to really want to support them. And people understand now that their food doesn't come from the store. It comes from a farmer. And so getting to know that farmer and buying directly from them is something that we've seen an uptick in. So I hope that continues for months after things sort of get back to some kind of normalcy.
And you mentioned, Jen, Tasha Phoenix and the Food Equity Advisory Board, FEEB, that's working to engage urban, really people in the city to become farmers. Can you give us a quick update on what's happening in that effort?
Well, I know that Tasha's been working on a community-owned grocery store for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the main focus of hers right now. Although I think that coronavirus and recent events of the last few weeks have maybe redirected some of her efforts. And she's interested in lifting up especially Black farmers right now and providing them support and guidance. So that's really exciting. Follow them on Facebook. You can follow Food Equity Advisory Board on Facebook and the St. Louis Food Policy Coalition. All have very robust social media accounts.
And I'm sure you can get to any of those social media accounts, any of those programs from the one central source of moenvironment.org.
Yes, yes, you can.
It's like I like to send people to the parent green hub. Let's come out of this here for a moment and we'll have another moment of conversation together, Jen. So before you had this job, I know you personally were the manager of the program, the Green Dining Alliance for St. Louis Earth Day. At that point, now it's Earth Day 365. You've been working with restaurants, you've been working with food, now you're working with farmers over several years, a hunk of time. What are some of the things you've seen, the trends you've seen, Jen, that you are most encouraged by?
Oh, it just seems like what I've noticed with chefs specifically is chefs are very concerned about sourcing food that they feel is uplifting the community. That is a thing that I've noticed recently that I didn't notice before. I mean, I spent years before my last job at the Green Dining Alliance. I worked in restaurants and bars all across St. Louis. And some chefs cared about that, but not a lot. And now I think chefs are more passionate about local food and really knowing where their food is coming from so they can tell their customers where their food is coming from. And that's been really exciting. Between that and the explosion of CSAs in the area, I think those are probably the two most encouraging things I've seen in my years and years in food and food work.
And as you're talking to farmers and you interact with farmers and with chefs, what kinds of things are you hearing from them about what they're hearing from the public, that larger circle of trend and perception and evolution?
Well, I think one of the more interesting things I've heard from farmers is that the public is starting to ask about specific growing practices. Like they actually care about no-till. I don't think that was a thing a few years ago, right? I mean, I didn't know about it a few years ago. I had no idea. And now like normal people, regular Joes, ask at the farmer's market about soil health and soil practices and care about it. So that I find that really encouraging and very cool. And I think that that is going to continue to grow over time, especially as younger generation is more interested in combating climate change.
And then for our viewers, for people who are attending the virtual Green Living Festival, what would you say? The top 3 things that they could consider doing relative to your work and your offerings.
So the first thing is to visit our website and really look at all of the farmers there. Read about some of the profiles, see where they sell their food, learn about why they do what they do and why it's important. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to try to buy one piece of local food in the next couple of weeks. Just make a commitment. Make it kale. I don't know. Make it kale. Make one kind of food that you always buy. Make sure it's from a local and sustainable farmer, a known and grown farmer. Maybe it could be something more fun. I don't know. I like
eggs.
But but I think that if you make that commitment to start buying one thing locally, you'll start to see that it's really easy and it tastes better. And you're supporting somebody local, which supports the local economy. So you'll start to feel better. And then the third thing I would ask that people do is please follow us on social media. As Jean said before, I work really hard on that to make it robust and information rich. There are great articles that I share on there regularly and tips and resources. So if you care about local food, I like to think of us as a pretty reliable resource in the region. So please visit us on social media and our website.
And I'm glad to know that you favor a mix of good information and cute animals.
Yes, it's important. You got to reel them in with the cute animals and then you shove the information down their throat.
Yeah. And then, and also cute vegetables. Don't forget the cute vegetables.
Yeah, we really like beets here at Known and Grown. I don't know if you saw, but we like the cute vegetables too.
Can't beat beets, I always say.
You do always say that.
Yes, I totally do. Yes, yes. Jenn DeRose, you're the manager of Known and Grown STL. It's a local food brand. It is really, you're doing good work. And the whole food and farm team at the Missouri Coalition for the Environment is doing fine work. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Jean.
Thanks for being an exhibitor at the Green Living Festival. And we hope that you will hear from folks that heard about you from the virtual Green Living Festival.
Please send me a note.
Green Living Festival, virtual in 2020. 3 days of some live events, including a panel from noon to 1 on Saturday, June 6th, Tuesday, June 9th, Thursday, June 11th, family activities, yoga, things for kids, writing and solar cars and green homes and just all kinds of great resources, including our exhibitors. You can find them all online, an entire directory. There are little interviews with each one just like this that we hope you will view and enjoy. Check out mobot.org/greenlivingfest for the schedule of events and for all of those resources. Thanks again to our presenting sponsor, Ameren, Missouri. Thanks from the Earthway Center at Missouri Botanical Garden, bringing sustainable solutions to you to make green living work practically, joyfully. I'm Jean Ponzi. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for the green things you do. See you around the planet.